What's happening, peeps and peepants? Hope you guys are having an awesome day. This is gonna be a video where you guys need to look at it maybe in sections. All of the timestamps are going to be in the video description below because I know it's going to be a very long one, and for those that are going to watch it in one sitting, I applaud you. I have been asked about this, or at least to make this video for a couple of times and by a lot of people, so I'm like, let's finally do it. I got a little bit of time left, even though this is going to take a lot of time recording, and hopefully I'm going to narrow it down for you guys. Make a really shorter video than it's supposed to be, but still in the end it's going to be a big one. And what am I talking about right here? This is going to be an extremely overpowered ground build for you guys, and to be more accurate, amongst the tactical players amongst us with a tactical career path chosen. Let me just give you guys a little bit of a introduction what you guys are about to see. For all of you out there that have watched the video and are thinking, well, this build is not going to be very epic because it is going to be a glass cannon, and a glass cannon is a terminology we'd actually use for something that is going to hit very hard but is not going to survive very long in combat. So to those, I'm actually going to play another video. This TFO was actually designed for a 5-man team. 4 of my other teammates actually died off. They couldn't rest, they couldn't heal, they couldn't do DPS. And as you guys are about to see, I actually survived the entire TFO on my own. And let's say this is like a 5-minute long video that I'm going to show you guys just a little bit because I really don't want to bore you, but I just want to pique your interest in what this build is actually all about. In the previous section that you guys saw, all of the numbers and all of the DPSs that this thing is actually going to do, trust me, those numbers are not fake. Those numbers are equal or actually more than you can actually do in space combat. I'm actually going to start explaining this build. Now, to do that, there is going to be a lot of talkative video, and where I'm actually going to explain the choices that I made. First of all, let me just start off with the Endeavor. The Endeavor system actually helps you out. Now, I don't need space. I only need ground. The Endeavor system is definitely going to enhance all of your numbers, all of your statistics for your ground. I haven't done any in like resist and stuff like that for ground, so I made this character my main character, just focusing on critical severity, critical chance, ranged weapon, kit performance, and that's about it. The rest is like meh. I'm actually showing you guys this because I'm actually saying like, whenever you're going to, if you're going to copy this particular build, or just take out of it what you can actually find useful for your build, there is still room for improvement. This thing can still be more beefier, so it's going to be hard to kill, or you know, it's not already full, you know, to the maximum amount of points that you can put up here. The Endeavor that I actually the choices that I made for ground, and the choices why I'm actually doing this route, why I'm actually doing critical severity, chance, range weapon, and kit performance. Well, this build heavily depends on a couple of things. One being kit performance. Kit performance definitely enhances the abilities that you're going to use in your kit modules. Whenever you have a higher amount of kit performance, those numbers that you're going to have in your kit modules and the cooldown time that those kit abilities are going to be less, so you're going to be able to use them more often, and they're going to be higher numbers, so your damage output or your potential damage output is going to be through the roof. And I going to show you at the end of this video what that is. That is going to be crazy, and you actually saw it just a little bit on the first video where you actually saw all of the some guy wants to be on the video on the first video where you actually saw all of the numbers, those critical severity numbers, those critical chance numbers, and actually the damage output of a weapon. Those were crazy, right? Those was crazy. So that's all right. So ranged weapon, this is going to enhance your basically ranged weapon that you're ever going to use. The more points in here, the better your weapon outcome, the DPS wise, it's going to be. So keep in mind in that. So moving on to critical chance and critical severity, I believe I've talked about this thing long and in length in other videos, but just to summarize, if you just want to have your weapon output, where is it? If you want to have just the primary and secondary, just the base amount of damage and no increasement in that, don't put any points up here. But if you want to have like a, they call it a cookie cutter, a min-max somehow, so you want to do a very high amount of damage in a just a single shot, that you need to put your points in critical chance. Critical chance is basically a chance of you landing a critical hit on your enemies. Same principle, same applies for in space. When you're going to land a critical hit by increasing the critical chance, you're going to also increase the critical severity. Critical severity is the multiplier that you're going to land the DPS at the end at your opponent. So the higher the critical severity is going to be, the higher the multiplier is going to be, and in the outcome you're going to get, or you're going to land, a very high critical damage output that you're going to do. As you guys saw, the 9Ks, the 10Ks, the 11, the 15, the 20Ks that were on the video as well, those are due to the high critical severity. So those are basically what this build is all about: landing critical chances, landing critical hits, having a high refresh rate on my cooldowns and my abilities, and having a really overpowered weapon that I'm actually using. I don't want to say this is the best weapon, because there's definitely room for improvement, but in my honest opinion, for all the time that I've actually spent playing with this thing, this is the best weapon currently available for you guys for this particular build. Endeavors already covered. Next, I'm going to go through all of these tabs right here one by one, and I'm actually going to explain everything that has to do with my character right here. Now, as you guys can see, my character, without being buffed or anything like that, has a critical chance of 21.7 and a critical severity of 220.6. Now, I already talked about what the critical chances and critical severities were all about. Now, I do want to mention that my fleet is not running the combat boost performance, the tier 3 that actually gives you 20% all damage in ground and in space. So even these numbers that you guys are seeing here, and definitely the end result numbers that for the DPS of this particular weapon, can be enhanced by that. 20% is definitely a high number. To slot in that combat boost performance for your entire fleet, there is room for you to improve on this build, and I actually dare you guys to actually do better than this. Send me a screenshot if you're actually able to do that. But let me just go on and talk about all of the items and choices that I made. So like I said, the Boolean weapon is actually, in my personal opinion, the best one for this particular build, and not the Herald staff. So I actually re-engineered this Boolean staff, and the Boolean staff can actually be obtained through the Low-Buy store. If you guys are interested in purchasing one of these things, have these modifiers. Let me just go and re-engineer so you guys see the modifiers better. So I have damage, crit D, and then damage, crit H. So I have an increasement in damage in times 2 in its full potential, and then critical severity times 2, and then damage right here. So basically a third damage and a critical chance. So those are the choices that I made. Now, why I actually think that this weapon is the best weapon for this particular build has to do with the firing cycle and also the primary and secondary cooldown that has to do with this particular weapon. So the first one is the primary. It's called the quick beam right here. I can actually show you guys that is this particular statistics and numbers that has to do with this weapon. So the disruptor damage is doing 825.5 disruptor damage towards the enemy that is going to be in front of you or the back you, wherever, and that comes down to 254 damage per second that it is going to do. For this build has to do with that 3-second interval that basically gives you the time to actually use your other buffs. That has to do with that entirely as an ability that's going to give you 3.25 seconds of you buffing the next attack that you are going to do. The next attack could be the secondary. The secondary has to do with 394 disruptor damage that comes down to 82.9 DPS. Might be really low, but if you compare this secondary, it's called the focus blast. If you compare this thing, the cylindrical damage and knockback against another particular weapon, you're going to find out that this thing actually chains up to 5 other enemies in the cylindrical damage output from your character. Let's say in the front you're going to have like a really big tunnel vision kind of deal going on, and everything that is in that tunnel is going to get hit. That could be 4 or 5 different characters that are going to be there, 5 different enemies. All of them are going to get hit with 394 disruptor damage, and sometimes this thing actually fires twice in a row really quickly, like boom boom. Really awesome, really overpowered, and I'm really enjoying this particular weapon, and I hope that they please don't nerf this particular weapon. The next one that I'm actually going to tell you guys to use and also grab is going to be the Nakul 2-set piece that has to do with the shielding and also the weapon. That's going to give you critical chance 2% and 30% in critical severity. The primary reason why I'm actually using this, because the Nakul shield actually has a time slip ability, summoned a level 74 distortion for the next 10 seconds. And the best reason why I actually give you guys this as a tip is the next part, and it says you are immune to all damage and invisible to enemies with while the distortion is active. And why I'm actually teaming it up with the gun as well, because you're going to get the critical chance and critical severity from the 2 sets. Now this secondary gun is trash. It is the worst out there that is available for you to have, but the 2-set bonus compared with the shield definitely makes it really good for your character. It is what it is. I really don't like it. I love the Boolean, and the 2-set piece from the Nakul actually makes you immune to all damage and increasing you 2. What was it? Let me see. 2% critical chance, 30% critical severity. Next in line, what I actually think that is also the best out there for this particular build has to do with the advanced fleet recoil compensation armor, and this definitely can be obtained really easily on the fleet NPC shop, where you can actually buy these armors. The reason why I'm actually using this thing has to do with an increasement in critical severity by 80%. That 80% is going to come up here, and it's going to raise this amount to 220. The physical, kinetic, and energy damage resistance ratings are okay. It's not that, it's very overpowered. It's not a tank armor or anything like that. It is what it is, and it is definitely okay. It's not the best out there, but it does it does what it does. Now the next thing that I'm going to show you is the kit frame that I use. Let me emphasize this, and I cannot stress it out more, because this particular kit is unique. If you go in the exchange, you will not find this particular kit available out there. This has to do with somebody getting extremely lucky in upgrading and getting these modifiers to this kit frame, because there is no other option for you to re-engineer these particular kits. You can upgrade them, make them, you know, epic and Mark 15 like I did right here, but there is no way of actually modifying the modifiers right here, those things between the brackets. And I believe I paid around 300 million just for this particular kit that is currently not available anymore on the exchange, because somebody got, like I said, really extremely lucky having these modifiers. So this particular kit, what it actually does for my character, it enhances the critical chance by 2.7%. It enhances the critical severity by 10.6%. It increases the weapon proficiency, that is going to improve the ground weapon DPS by 63.8. It is also increasing 63.8 in kit performance. It's going to increase, or is going to improve all of these kit modules that I'm going to use, and I'm going to show you guys in a later stage, right after this. And also the weapon criticals. It's going to improve the critical chance and critical severity with weapons. Now this kit module, the last part, weapon criticals, does not enhance the weapon criticals, but it enhances the overall criticals that you're going to have. Let me see right here. The weapon criticals, so it does not increase this particular weapon in critical severity or in critical chance, but it enhances your character. So it's like a base amount of increasement before you actually utilize a weapon. But anyway, so kit that I'm actually using is this one, the Delta Expedition Tactical, and I believe this one is from a mission reward. I'm actually going to give you guys all of the information on your screen where you can actually obtain these things, what I'm actually talking about, so you guys have a better understanding of what you're actually in for. So we are going to begin with Photonic Overcharge. So what this thing actually does is additional damage and critical severity buff to self, plus 50% in critical severity for the next 17.7 seconds. To self, your attacks deal an additional 15% damage at maximum 100 and as radiation damage for the next 17.7 seconds. So keep that in mind. It's going to do two types of damage. It's going to do radiational damage, and it's going to do the normal disruptor type damage. The next part, when activating all of that, that has to do with something different, so I'm not going to talk about that, but just this particular kit module. The next one that I'm going to talk about is the Ambush. This is a single attack damage buff. This is the numbers that I'm getting: 309.6% bonus all damage for the next 15 seconds. Kind of cool to mention, because this thing has a 35-second recharge. I'm actually down only 20 seconds after use of this thing. Very cool, and a very high amount of damage output that we are going to deal. The next is going to be Deadly Intent. Let me just read about that. So the primary weapon attack will reset the cooldown on the secondary attack after a short delay of 16.8 seconds. For after use, this thing is going to go in cooldown for 17.5 seconds. And remember, this thing has a short delay of 16.8 seconds. So basically, after cooldown, you can basically use it right away again. So the only reason why I'm actually using this as a kit module is to lower the amount of cooldown that the secondary attack is going to have, because the secondary attack is very overpowered with this particular build. It basically, like I said, the tunnel, it basically kills or vaporizes everybody that are in that tunnel. Paradox bomb right here, all the way leveled no, you can't actually level this thing. So it is what it is at 12, level 12. That's the highest currently. So what does this thing actually do? So this thing creates a level 60 paradox bomb. Paradox bomb is the equivalent of a gravity well in space. This is basically in ground. This thing actually grabs hold of all of the enemies that are in the vicinity of 20 meters. It actually says that, and basically gravity wells them in ground together. And then when you strike them with the tunnel of this thing, of the secondary, the cylindrical damage that it's going to do, 5 of your enemies are going to die instantly. So this thing creates a level 60 paradox bomb for the next 5 seconds. During the first seconds, it's going to do -10 pull for to the foes within 20 meters, and disable sprint roll of affected foes, and up to after 5 seconds this thing actually explodes. So within the first 4 seconds it basically pulls off on all of the enemies that are in the vicinity of 20 meters to the center. After the 4 second expires, and at the 5th seconds, this actually does a high amount of physical damage. It's basically just like a grenade exploding in ground. This thing is doing 171.6 physical damage to the foes within 20 meters, increased slow to the center, and this is enhanced by entropy. If you use it in conjunction with the secondary of the Boolean gun, trust me, you're going to vaporize at least 5 guys in that vicinity. If this thing actually goes off and you're using the secondary, 5 guys are dead. Lastly, of the kit modules that I'm actually using is trajectory bending. Now obviously leveled all the way to 15 epic out. So all weapon attacks causes flanking, and if you don't know what flanking is, basically flanking is a enhancement when you are dealing damage at the enemy's rear. This thing is actually making all of the weapons that you're going to fire, the primary, secondary, do flanking damages, flat out flanking damages. So 117.9 in critical severity enhancement for the next 10 seconds, and also all weapon attacks will cause flanking damage against foe for the next 10 seconds regardless of your attack angle. And that actually means, like, doesn't matter if you're front to front or front to side, it's definitely going to make it look like you are in you're flanking that guy, so, or whatever NPC you're coming across, and dealing basically dealing a high amount of damage to that. And also for the next 10 seconds you're going to deal 117.9 in critical severity enhancement of your base amount of characters, and the cooldown that you guys see right there is 17.5 seconds. Now this is the base amount of a cooldown that this thing is actually using. So let's say there is only a downtime of 7.5 seconds that you're not going to be able to use trajectory bending against your enemies. So these are the statistics that my character has. So I have a health hit points of 886 without being buffed, regeneration rate of 112, shield of 828 hit points, run speed of 13, critical chance of 21.7 without let's see, I'm not down yet, no. Why am I holding my weapon? So 21.7 in critical chance, in critical severity, 220 physical damage and all of that. This is basically just coming off of the armor that I'm actually using for the physical and kinetic and energy based damage. So these are the numbers. Fire is the only lowest that I have, and radiation damage that I see right here is the lowest amount by 40.8%. Now I do have a bunch of passives. Those are accolades that I'm currently having on my character that basically enhances stuff on your character. There is no need to go all of that. It is good, but you know, there is no need. So the skill-based stats for ground, now I'm not going to show all because that is going to actually give like a weird picture to you guys, but these are just points that have been enhanced, so they're not the base amount anymore, they're not zero. All of the numbers that are higher than zero are being shown up here. So combat specialist, improve ground weapons and unarmed attacks. Basically just focus on weapons. I have 100 of those right here. Willpower, resist to control ground effects. Those are basically like gravity pull for ground, like we were using the paradox bomb for and all of that. There is also another one, graviton spike. I believe I have that. Is it this one? Yes, graviton spike. I don't actually recommend using this because it's basically, it's not the same. You can actually, let's read about it. So area of effect, kinetic damage, knock and slow. So your next weapon attack will have for the next 20 seconds triggers the following in a 6 meter radius around the target, dealing kinetic damage with 50% shield penetration damage from the epicenter, and it's going to knock towards the center, doing a -50 run speed for the next 11.8 seconds. Now the difference between paradox bomb and this graviton spike is the graviton spike is actually going to knock all of the enemies towards the epicenter. And when the enemies are up, they can basically walk away. But this paradox bomb, it basically holds the enemy for the next 4 seconds, and that's the best value you can have for a kit module. And then at the end, it's not going to do the same amount of damage as the graviton spike does based on kinetic based damage, but it's going to do a high amount of kinetic damage nevertheless. 171 physical damage, basically kinetic damage. In ground, it's definitely a cool thing to have. So moving on to the stats right here, we go to common stats, weapon proficiency. That's going to improve the ground weapons. I have 174 points in that. That mainly has to do with weapon proficiency from the kit, and also the skill points and trait. That's why this thing is really high. So weapon criticals also coming off of this thing, the weapons critical 31.9. That is why this thing is really high. So increasement in critical chance and critical severity with weapons, 142 points after, you know, after everything has been settled down in points and all of that. I also have a couple of points in endurance ring, so maximum hit points you kind of need to survive, so I have 60 points in that. Armor expert, that's going to improve the ground resistance, that has to do with the armor as well. 100 points because you kind of need to resist a certain amount. You cannot be like, you know, a glass cannon the whole time. You kind of need to survive as well to do GPS. Kit performance, that improves all the kit modules. The highest amount that I currently have is that one, 272 points in that. And also kit readiness, that is going to improve the kit module cooldowns, basically saying all of these kit module ability skills can be used over and over with a very short amount of cooldown time that is going to lock me out, so I cannot do that anymore. So let's move on to skills. Now this is going to be the skill section of this video. Now, as you guys know, I have no skills for space, but for ground I'm actually spec'd up to the max. That's the reason why you guys are watching this video, to be honest, I'm guessing. So ground it is. So these are the choices that I actually made. There are also a couple of other choices that I made right here beneath. I'm actually going to tell you why I actually do that, or why I actually made choices the way I actually made them. But let me just go through them and see the choices that we actually made. So weapon proficiency, we definitely need to have that to have basically an enhancement in the weapon output. Also in criticals right here, so enhancing critical chance, critical severity, critical chance, critical severity. This is the route that I actually went for the weapon. Now this is only has to do with, or at least that this section right here only has to do with the weapon, basically, you know, enhancing all of that. Now I could use these two as well, weapon penetration or improved weapon penetration, but the way that you guys, or at least the way I actually play it, I actually don't need weapon penetration, and let me explain that. So the highest amount of damage that I'm going to do against a particular enemy, it does not matter how much health and hit points he has in shields or, you know, just normal health. The amount of damage that I'm going to subtract against his shield hit points or his health hit points, there is no need for penetration skills. So I thought this is going to be a waste, because let's say the enemy has about 200 hit points, or at least the NPC around 200 hit points. If I throw, or if I reduce about 1000 hit points from him, do I really need penetration? Or at least, you know, improved penetration on weapons, or just weapon penetration to be there? No, I don't, because I'm basically overkilling the enemy like 2, 3, 4 times in a row by doing you know, so much damage towards him or her. The next one that I didn't actually spend points in is personal shield expert, master, shield resistance, or improved shield resistance. Basically everything that has to do with survivability has to do with the Nakul shields. That immunity bubble that it actually comes with doesn't give me, or at least it does give me enough survivability, so I really don't have to put point in this to enhance my personal shield. When my shield is low, I'm going to get that immunity for the next 10 seconds, and when that immunity bubble is at the shield, basically you can actually see that the shield hit points actually are going to come up. So you're going to have a full amount of shield hit points when your bubble is going to be available again, you know. So really didn't want to put points in here, because I thought these are just points that are going to be spent elsewhere to have a more efficient DPS character, or at least oriented in extremely overpowered DPS build that I'm going to do. So moving along to this section right here, kit performance, have that. Kit efficiency, definitely have that. Kit performance master, definitely. Now I could increase the kit readiness up here, so all of the abilities are going to recharge faster, they're going to come out of cooldown a little bit faster, but there is no need. They're already really good with the choices that I made, very low amount of cooldown by itself, so I really don't need to go full DPS oriented on this thing. All of the other choices that I made with trait and skills and all of that, kit modules, they are good enough, right? So you really don't need that. Now because this build is already good enough, I actually spent a couple of points in survivability. The survivability meaning like armor resist and, you know, energy based damage resist, kinetic resist and all of that, because you kind of need to have a little bit of resist, right? You don't need to focus heavily on the Nakul shield to help you survive. There is also a little bit of survivability that you kind of need to have that on your own. So I actually spent a couple of points in endurance training, personal or at least expert armor, and armor master. Now I could go with this, so to increase the maximum hit points, but I was like, I'm good on hit points, right? I have about 800 on shield hit points and health hit points, so I was like, you know, that's fairly good. Whenever somebody is going to pile up on me, I'm still going to be able to kill them faster, and I'm still going to survive with 800 hit points due to the choices that I've made in kit, in weapon, and also in armor. Now, I didn't do any regeneration for the basically when you're out of combat, it's going to enhance your regeneration cycle, so you're going to have your hit points, you know, coming up faster than normal. I think this is definitely a waste of skill points if you put them there, so I've chosen this route. So weapon proficiency, weapon expert, weapon critical, weapon improved weapon criticals, and then kit performance expert, kit efficiency, kit performance master, and then right here endurance training, because you kind of need a little bit of resist anyway. So endurance training, armor expert, and armor master. So that's about it for the ground portion. Now there are a couple of choices that I made right here as well. Now the first one I didn't actually choose because this has to do with bridge officer training. If you want to train your bridge officer to a certain ability, you can actually choose this, but who actually chooses bridge officer abilities? So no need for that. Now the next one is a choice that you need to make between willpower and device expert. So increases your ability to incoming control effect as disable, to run, root, confuse, placate, run speed debuff, knock, repel, pull, and all that. Or you can have a device master. This skill increases, or device expert, sorry, expertise. This skill increases the effectiveness of most consumable devices. Each point in the device mastery skill grants a 0.5 bonus to the effectiveness of the device when activated. This is what I chose out of the two ones. I was like, nobody, the way I'm actually playing the game is like I'm going to head into combat and then I'm just going to hunker down. I'm going to kneel and I'm going to put my weapon against my shoulder and basically snipe up everybody. So I'm not going to be using, or at least I'm not going to run out of combat. I'm not going to, you know, go be disabled or anything like that. So in my personal opinion, device expertise was the best out of these two options. Now the third one is basically just like the first one, bridge officer training. Skip that one. So the first, or no, the fourth one, I had to choose between improved aim or improved crouch. So I've chosen improved aim. It says by default aim offers a plus 30% damage bonus to all types of ranged weapon. This unlock increases by the additional 10% damage bonus for a total of plus 40% increasement in your ranged base weapon damage that you're going to do. Now I didn't do improve crouch because I wanted to focus heavily on DPS and not survivability. I don't want to have a tank, but I did definitely want to have a DPS skill right here. And you guys already saw this thing is definitely hitting like a nuclear weapon if you compare it to that. Okay, so next one is also a bridge officer training ability, so I'm not going to choose that one, the fifth one, but I'm going to the sixth. So you got Furious Footworks or Fatal Fists. I had to choose something between these two. None actually has to do with my character. Attacking with melee will grant you 20% run speed for the next 5 seconds. I mean, sure, whoever does melee or pushback abilities, as you guys are going to see, nobody, trust me, nobody is actually going to lay a hand on my character. Nobody's gonna do that. Or Fatal Fist, attacking with melee inflicts a debuff of minus 20 damage resistance rating to any foe that you hit with your melee attack. That's going to last for 5 seconds. I was like, let's choose run speed. Now the next one, bridge officer training skill, I just didn't select that one, but this is the 2, 4, 6, the 8th one in line. So improve flanking damage or an improved flanking resistance. So basically, do you want to have like a tank, like, you know, to have more survivability, or do you want to do more damage? Naturally, I chosen more damage to do that. So by default, any damage attack made from beyond the target's forward 120-degree arc will be considered a flank and deal additional damage. This could allow you to deal additional damage when you successfully land a flank on a foe. Now remember the ability that I had, Deadly Intent. Which one was it? Was it this one? No, it's not this one. This one. Trajectory bending. This also causes flanking damage. So these two in combination, these are definitely going to increase our damage output, because I'm always going to land flanking whenever a was it Deadly Intent? I forgot already. Trajectory bending, whenever trajectory bending is on, this thing is going to be enhanced because I've chosen improved flanking damage. Next one is going to be bridge officer ability, so I'm going to skip that. But the last one that I actually chose is offensive or defensive. So I've naturally gone with the choice to have a offensive mastery. It says this skill increases the base damage of your energy and melee weapon, as further improving your critical hits with all weapons. So this definitely increases proficiency and criticals. So enhancement in DPS or enhancement in survivability, I basically chose the dealing of DPS road basically when it comes down to that. Now if you guys are, you know, following along this far, definitely heads off to you guys, because this is definitely a talkative video, not a lot of action up here, but these are the choices that I've made. And as you guys are going to see when I'm actually going to do combat, this particular build is in so many ways overpowered, and it basically is like a one-man killing machine. This is basically just like a Terminator. there is no surviving this guy or this girl, sorry. So the choices that I made is a temporal operative. I'm basically going with all of the ground abilities and none of with the skill abilities. So I've gone with your weapon attacks gain 5% chance to do physical damage. Very good, very nice. 50% all damage of your to all ground damage over time abilities. I really don't have those, but it's still good if you want to go that well. When weapon dealing damage to a foe that has at least one dot effect, don't have that, but sure, why not? Now here is why I actually chosen this particular to be the temporal operative to be primary. Has to do with ground combat. In ground combat, this ability speeds up the recharge of kit modules, and also temporal hit points for the next 10 seconds stacks 10 times when activating a kit module ability. So I'm going to get temporal hit points. That's also why I actually have a low amount of hit points. That's why I actually didn't go with higher hit points in ground, because this actually gives me temporal hit points. So that's on top of my normal hit points. I'm going to get temporal hit points. So that's definitely a must-have. Activating any kit abilities instantly reduce secondary firing mode by 2 seconds. So secondary firing mode is the this one, so primary and secondary. So this thing actually reduces that to 3 seconds or 50%. So a reduction in cooldown of this thing, a must in my opinion. And also physical damage per 10 seconds whenever this thing is triggered. So moving on to the second secondary, that is commando, the second specialization that I've chosen. You have the primary and the secondary. So I've chosen Commando it to be my secondary. It has to do with these. So we got a reduced cooldown on all secondary firing modes by 5% or 25%, which is less. So definitely reduction in the secondary right here. And the next one, why this is the more beneficial specialization to choose, is 20% in cooldown reduction of all kit abilities. So like I said in the beginning of the video, when you lower the cooldown of all of your abilities or kit abilities or captain abilities, whatever it has you, you're going to be able to utilize that ability faster and faster. So definitely choose Commando if you want to go for this. Also for ground while aiming, you're going to get +5 in critical chance. And if you guys see right here, critical chance is 21.7, and if I go in aiming mode, it's 26.7. Right there we got an increasement in 5% skills right here. Basically a no-brainer to grab that. Brace crouching is also, while crouch, you're going to get 14.9 hit points every 2 seconds. This effect is double when you're not in combat, so my hit points are going to regenerate every time I am in crouching mode. And crouching mode is basically just like this. So you are like, when you're going to move around, you're going to be like this, but when you're crouching, you're basically just like this. So crouching, follow through while sprinting, you will gain 25 bonus melee damage that lingers after 3 seconds after sprinting. Sure. That's just a benefit that I don't use, but it's all good. Wrecking ball, whenever you roll, leave a spatial mine behind. I don't really roll that much in combat, but it's kind of cool. You basically leave like a present to the people that are behind you, or the enemies that are behind you. Basically like a small grenade that basically does kinetic based damage. Next is Juggernaut armor, basically from the Juggernaut system. 20% maximum hit points and also 20 all damage resistance rating, because you kind of need to have a little bit of damage resist, right? You can't go full DPS without survivability. Next is Juggernaut shielding, maximum shield capacity by 20%, and damage reduces to the shield by 10%. So definitely better shields, and you know, beefier as well, because they have a higher shield capacity. So those are basically all of the skills that I've chosen, the speciality, what I've chosen it for, and why I actually made that choice. So those are basically the reason why I'm actually doing these kit modules, and also whenever I'm in aiming mode, I'm going to get 5% critical chance, and also temporal hit points in getting back for my character whenever I'm in combat. Because whenever I'm in combat, I'm basically like this, and I'm not moving around. I'm basically just like stationary, so there is nothing that is able to hit me in one shot. And trust me, in the movies, the videos that you guys saw, the cinematics, those are basically people were like, or at least NPCs were like throwing grenades at me, and I was still surviving that. I was being knocked around due to the, like, you know, the pushback ability of the grenades exploding, but it still wasn't enough to actually kill me, and I basically survived that for like 5 minutes in. So definitely the choices that I'm making right here, definitely cool in survivability and extremely useful in DPS wise if you're into it. Let's move on to the traits. Like I said, now first out of the bat, I have to tell you guys something, and you guys might comparing my character to your character and I'm thinking like, what the hell, why does he has so many traits? Well, I only have one plus trait, and that has to do with me making Sakura. When I actually made Sakura, I actually made her an alien. So that has to do with me having made that choice from a long time ago, and I actually made that choice because if I did that, that would have one extra slot that I could have in my personal ground traits and also my personal space traits. The rest, Starship Reputation, Ground, and Active Rep, those are basically the same, just like you guys, but the only difference between my character and you guys' character has to do with me having one extra, because my character is an alien. It's not a Romulan, it's not, you know, Klingon, it's not, I don't know, Federation or Vulcan or whatever. It's an alien, so it's like a crossbreed, and that basically has one extra. But let me just go through all of the choices that I made and why I actually made them. First of all, superior assault training, that has to do because I'm actually using the Boolean cannon. Let me just bring it out. Hello, there it goes. The Boolean assault cannon has to do with an assault weapon, so this increases that base amount of damage by 7.5%. The next one up is introspection. When I'm going to be stationary, and this also has to do when I'm in combat, I'm going to get a bonus old damage by 5%, also 5% in health regeneration, and also a reduction in old damage resistance rating. So that has to do with while me being when I'm being stationary. And this is also part of a stacking system. I don't know if you guys know about this, but every 5 seconds I get one stack. So one stack actually means 5% bonus old damage, 5% health regeneration. That is one stack. And at 5, basically you are 25 seconds in combat and longer than that. Let's say your combat is going to last for 2 minutes. You're basically going to get plus 25 bonus old damage and also plus 25 in health regeneration, so your health is going to rapidly regenerate faster, and you're also going to get more damage out of that, plus 25 bonus old damage when you are more than 25 seconds in combat. All right, moving on to the next trait. Next trait is creative. Creative I actually chosen because I still want to have kit performance that is going to improve all of the kit modules effectiveness that I have actually chosen right here in all of these things right here. Next one is the Hive Mind. Oh my god, this thing is a must-have for all of the characters that you're going to use. Grab this thing off the exchange or whatever. I believe it's the Zindi lockback. Bonus old damage for your team per teammate within 20 meters. Now those 20 meters actually don't work in STO. That is just per teammate in the same map. Whenever your teammates as well have Hive Mind, it's going to be doubled. So you're going to get plus 4% bonus old damage per teammate that is going to be on the same map. So at maximum, if those guys don't have Hive Mind as well as a trait, you're going to get plus 8%. And if they have, plus 16 bonus old damage. So definitely something that you need to have in Hive Mind on your character. Vicious, a no-brainer whenever you're doing DPS. So this is a damage buff and it's going to increase over the combat time. Just like this thing, I forgot the introspection. This thing is in combat and it's going to, the longer you are in combat, the more effectiveness this is going to be. So for every 6 seconds in combat, that's going to have a maximum stacking of 5. You're going to get 1.5% bonus old damage and an increasement of 6% in critical severity, 7.5% in bonus old damage and 30 critical severity. Oh my god, right? No brainer. Grab Vicious, whatever you can, exchange lockbox. You need that in your life. Next one is going to be a Lucky, a flat out 3% critical chance increasement and also 10% increasement chance to expose. Now if you guys don't know what expose means, expose is when your enemy have like that circle in their character, so you can basically have a chance to vaporize them with one shot. That's basically expose. I'm gonna try pronouncing this thing not successfully, obviously, because I believe it's Latin or something. Dulce et decorum est. This is going to give me a flat out 10% bonus to all damage. Bonus swaps to 20% damage resistance upon being knocked unconscious or resets on map movement. So what it actually says here, whenever you're going to go into ground combat, this thing is going to give you, going to buff you up doing more damage. 10% bonus to all damage. Whenever you are dead, you died, this thing is going to swap that bonus all damage to damage resistance to you. So this is like, you want to do DPS? Sure, let's see if you can do DPS. If you die, no, you didn't do enough DPS. Let me put you on survivability mode so you can actually continue down the line of doing that. That is just awesome. So definitely a must-have for me. Next in line is Soldier, ranged weapon damage and critical severity. So flat out plus 5% bonus. Let me just move that because it's kind of weird. 5% bonus ranged weapon, 10% ranged weapon in critical severity. I'm actually using a field technician, kit readiness. So kit module cooldowns. Remember when I actually started the video, reduction in cooldown actually improves all of the kit ability cooldowns, so you can use them faster and faster. Now this particular conduit, this particular trait that I'm actually using it in conjunction with power cells. Now power cells, if you have no idea what these things are these things. These enhance your all damage for the all energy based damage for the next 15 seconds by 37.5. Something that I thought, or at least I think that they're going to help me out. I chosen this thing, deadly aim. This is critical severity plus a 20. Lethality, increase in critical hit chance by plus 5%. Omega weapon proficiency. Now this is the Mark II because I leveled the Omega rep to level 6 or tier 6. This thing is giving me a flat out bonus all damage, all energy weapon damage by 6.3%, and also melee damage. I don't use melee, but sure. Mental acuity, 12.5 bonus damage while aiming. Now aiming is this thing whenever you're holding your gun basically like that, like ready to do damage, and this is when you're not in aiming mode. It's kind of weird, but trust me, it's like X on your keyboard and it's going to go into aiming mode. And you guys saw there is a couple of buffs that have been added, this thing right here and also headshot right here, due to the specialization. But this thing actually improves the damage output by 12.5%, and miniaturized chrono capacitor, that is reducing the module's recharge speed or ability by 9.4%, because as you guys know, reoccurring theme, all of the abilities need to recharge faster and faster and faster, so you can use them more often, buff up your character to do more damage and all that. Active rep could be fun, but I've chosen all of them for ground, and I highly recommend you guys using them for ground as well. All of them except this thing, because when you're dead, you're dead, right? When you're dead, you basically didn't, or somebody didn't do a good job on your team. Somebody didn't do a good job. I could definitely swap that out with this visual dampening field, because it's like visual dampening field is like a cloud that's basically on your team, on your character. But I've chosen these. So Defiance, whenever your health is below a certain percentage, I believe it's 20%, but that is your health, right? That is your health. You're going to get 37.4 health every 2 seconds for the next 20 seconds. So definitely like a health increasement. Basically, whenever your health is gone, this thing is going to increase that really quickly. Also going to get you 41.3 all damage for the next 20 seconds, so you're going to kill your enemy that actually lowered your health faster. So you're going to be more based on more damage and more damage and more damage. It's insane. And last thing that this thing actually gives us whenever it is going to be active, it's going to give you 1250 all damage resistance rating for the next 20 seconds. Now that is a high amount of damage resistance rating. This thing is definitely a like a oh shit button. Whenever you're going to die, use this and it's going to be able to help you get out of that situation. Whenever enemies are piling up on you or whatever, you can basically get like a high damage resist, a high amount of damage that you're going to do with your weapon, and also health regeneration. So something to get you out of a difficult situation. Down part of this thing, it has a really high cooldown, 5-minute cooldown, so it's really high, and you cannot use it often in game. Next one, concussive tachyon emission. Point blank gives a 30-meter radius, a shield reduction or shield drain from your enemy, from your character. That lowers their shield basically all the way to nothing. To be honest, I actually never use this in combat. I don't really see the point of it because I'm doing so much damage. There's actually no need for this. Or for this, the piezoelectrical perimeter snare. This is definitely visually very pleasing, but I don't really use it. It creates a bioelectric perimeter snare for the next 10 seconds, dealing 311.9 electrical damage with 50% shield penetration, plus 20% damage to electronic, those drones and stuff like that. Root the target, minus run speed, electrical burns, electrical damage every 1 second. I really don't use that a lot. The next one is kind of cool to have one little ship. This is basically a Danube runabout that is going to assist you and is going to fire phasers and torpedoes against your enemies. Kind of cool. That is going to assist you for the next 30 seconds. Highly recommend using it, but then again only in tough situations because there is a high amount of cooldown with this thing as well, 5 minutes. So use it, accordingly, and don't use it because it looks cool. Last one, Nanite Cloud. This is basically going to heal all of your allies with a high amount, 50% chance to revive unconscious allies, 31.3% health when they're going to be resurrected. Reinvite allies are immune to danger for the next 2 seconds, are disabled for the next 3 seconds. It's all good. It's all, it's whatever, but it's I really don't use any of these active reputation, to be honest, because there is no way that at least my enemy can actually lower my hit points due to the Nakul shield kicking in. So I'm immune whenever they took off my shields, and whenever somehow they actually go bypass the shield immunity and they're basically starting to reduce my hit points, this thing actually, the Defiance actually kicks in, and it's like basically, the enemies are dead and dying in an instant. As it is right now, I've actually given you guys more than enough for your character to be overpowered in any mission that is Star Trek related, and that can actually include missions that are on a higher difficulty, on advanced mode. I wouldn't go elite on your own because you kind of need to have a full team, but you can definitely hold your own on advanced or normal. You're going to be definitely overpowered. You guys have seen me play let's plays on normal difficulty, and you guys see that is just a piece of cake going from that. But if you want to go to its full potential on your character and what she or he is capable of, this next section of this video is going to be very interesting to you. Now, I am going to give you guys some small tips and tricks to enhance your character abilities even further. Now, first of all, is going to come up with this. This thing is a gambling device. If you guys have no idea, this is obtainable through the exchange or through the Lobi store, and this actually gives you it's basically going to give you a critical chance and critical hit, and also plus 15 in dodge, or it's going to reduce your critical chance or critical hit and also your dodge by 10% in critical hit and chance, and 15 in dodge, not just chance. But so basically, how does it work? So you basically buy it, put it on your devices slots right here, and then just press a button. If this thing is going to be green just like that, you basically won. Right here it says gambling device, you win. So you're going to have an increasement in 10% in critical chance, critical severity 10%, and dodge. I don't know where dodge has been displayed, but that has also been increased. Now, you might think to yourself, well, that's about it. No, it's not about it. You also have two different pets that is going to be able to assist you in combat. The bioengineered Furion, and also the combat trained tardigrade, and the Danuba runabout, and also if you are a tactical, because tactical is what we are talking about in this particular video, you also have security team. On top of that, if you're willing to spend a little bit of money, you also have Hortas that I don't have, but my bridge officers have. You can also use this particular device. This basically makes like a quantum duplicate of yourself for the next 60 seconds. But I'm actually, here we go. You can actually use these Hortas. These are basically bought with Zen, and they're going to assist you with combat. So whenever you're in combat, you can basically spawn out these things one at a time. So you can basically go with Horta and one of these, quantum duplicates, and then security escorts. So you're never going to be alone on your own in combat. So you always have friends. So that's a little bit of tip that I'm giving you guys. But if you want to enhance your character abilities even further, you basically need to pay attention to these things right here. So we got right here the Bajoran Mojito. This actually gives you plus 10 in kit performance whenever you're going to eat this thing for the next 1 hour. It's going to give you plus 10 in kit performance. We also have the Ferezen Shaggrass. I hope I pronounced that correctly. You will gain temporary hit points for the next 1 hour, and also 2% in critical chance. So this thing is going to be increased by that. Let me just eat, or at least drink, the Bajoran Mojito. You're going to see kit performance increasement by 10%. Hey, that's the wrong animation. There we go, that's the right animation. Drink that thing. Oh, she's thirsty. She just drank it twice. Bajoran Mojito right there. Oh, wait a minute. She is yeah, she's happy about that. Also, we have the grass that is giving us a 2% in critical chance. So right now we are sitting at 31.7. Let's eat a little bit. 33.7, an increasement in 2%. So those are the grass and the mojito. We also have, this is for survivability. If you are into that, you can use that. What is this shield? We don't need that shield. Okay, so the next one for survivability is this one, the Trixion Bubble Candy. It's going to give us hit points over the next 3.5 seconds. Not the reason why we're actually using it. We are actually using it for this thing. Is going to give us plus 10 in maximum shield capacity, or at least plus 10% in maximum shield capacity for the next 1 hour. So you're going to have more points in your there we go, she's eating that, so we can actually remove that. Now these are all 1 hour buffs that actually go on your character, so that's definitely cool. Next one is the Dosai Rogut. Amongst other things, the reason why we're actually using it, because it's giving us critical severity for the next 900 seconds plus 20. We are currently sitting at 230. If we use this, we are sitting at 250 right now. Very nice, very cool, right? You just go over there because I need you. So the next one is going to be something that we kind of need to have with us at any given time. So we are definitely going to remove these guys because we basically don't need that. But what are these things that we're going to do, or at least going to use? Now, this thing is going to give us 7.5% bonus to all damage for the next 300 seconds. This is going to be very interesting, but you kind of need to have it with you because it has a low amount of time to be used. But 7.5% bonus all damage is definitely very cool. The same goes for this thing. This thing is a elite power cell. This can be bought from the Omega Reputation. This thing is going to add anti-proton damage to attacks, to all of your attacks. So you basically, whenever you're going to fire your weapon primary or secondary, on top of the disruptor damage, this thing is going to also add anti-proton damage. Now it's going to be a small amount, but still it's going to reduce hit points or shield hit points or health hit points from your character, from the NPC, the enemy that you're going to be facing against. So it's basically an increasement in your DPS because it's going to do damage by not doing damage. So next one is going to be this one. So there are two types of this thing. Nog's Nog, 10% bonus to all damage for the next 3,600 seconds, or you can actually use the Rakasa Juice, basically the same deal, 10% bonus damage, only the Rakasa Juice has like 180 seconds, so you basically need to consume this faster, because this one actually has a 360 seconds and this one has a 1,800 seconds duration of the usage. So I'm actually going to use this one right now and remove it because I actually need power cell and just use one of these guys. So I'm actually going to hello. Oh, there it goes. I'm actually going to use large power cells. As you guys know, 73.5% all damage for the next 15 seconds is something that I really enjoy. So definitely useful on that. And then these two I have not activated yet because they only go when they with a really short duration of the buff. I am actually cutting in the video right now. It turns out I actually forgot one important thing to mention to you guys. If you want to go the route through enhancing your build with like consumables and stuff like that, I totally forgot to mention this thing in the video. Now this thing is acquired from the NPC at the Fleet Starbase. And all of these, or at least this particular item, is I highly recommend you guys using this because for the next 4 hours all of your ground skills are going to be enhanced by plus 10 on utilizing this thing right here. It says over here weapon proficiency, weapon criticals, penetration, combat armor, endurance, everything that has to do with ground is going to be enhanced by +10. So definitely a must use in ground. You can use these things and you can purchase them at the Fleet Starbase. You guys can see it right here. Critical chance went up to 33.7. That is definitely a high amount of critical chances that I'm going to land a critical severity. Critical severity is up to 250 points, and that is just me not being buffed, not being utilized all of these abilities that I have right here, and none of the traits are kicking in and all of that. This is just me standing here at Earth Space Dock